It's the Rip City Wrap-Up, brought to you by Dick Hanna Subaru. Believe in nice. Here are your hosts, Tyree Smith, Danny Marang, and Joe Simons.
Well, when you woke up this morning, I don't know how you start your Sundays, but I don't think you usually start your Sundays with news as big as it was today. Welcome into Rip City Wrap-Up, episode 82, sponsored by We made it, man. 82, sponsored by the good people, Dick Hanna Subaru. Tyree Smith, Joe Simons, Danny Marang will be with us a little bit later, but it is the last Blazers game, and you go off on a high note, 109-81 victory over the Los Angeles Lakers. But obviously the big news of the day, Coach B, Chauncey Billups, getting that contract extension, Joe.
I'm at the gym just trying to get my Sunday started, you know, get a little sweat in before we come here to the arena, and got about 30 texts. What's going on?
You know what? Crazy, right? And this is the last game, and we actually have Tumani Kamara, who is up for his exit interview right now. So when we get a moment, let's go ahead and take him.
I want to be in a certain way of, I believe in my work ethic, and I knew one day I was going to be able to establish myself pretty good in the NBA. Now how fast it was going to happen and when it was going to happen, it was not something that I ever pictured. It was just try to go day by day, and very grateful how everything been going on for me this year, and I feel like the only way I can do now is keep going up, so we'll see how it goes.
I guess, too, like, do you feel even kind of more desire now to keep improving because you've already made such a big jump?
Yeah, for sure, because I still think that I make so many mistakes still as of today, whether it's defensively or offensively, and it's small things that as soon as I make those mistakes, I know exactly what I could do better or I could have done better. So I feel like it's just keep gaining that experience, that time on the floor, and be able to make those mistakes and grow from there. And then, I think I'll be just fine.
What'd you think of the team's promotion of you for Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it was dope. I didn't expect it to be like that. The media team and everybody with the organization did an amazing job on trying to get my input into things and putting stuff together, whether it's on the media or even the small things that they give to the media for the Defensive Player of the Year, whatever the case may be. I feel like the attention to details and what they were trying to do, they mastered it, and they did a great job at that for sure.
You talked about watching football, watching defensive backs. Do you maybe harbor some kind of fantasy that maybe you could have played football?
Not really. I feel like you got to grow into that space to really want to do this like at a high level, just because the hits and everything is different level. So.
But you appreciate the skill.
Yeah, for sure. Now I feel like if I put all my effort into it, I feel like it's something that I could enjoy too. I mean, I enjoy the way the game is played and stuff like that. I feel like I could watch it a little bit more, but yeah, I was always impressed by how they play defense and how it's always a one-on-one game for DB almost most of the time, if they're in a man or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I thought it was always an impressive sport.
Where do you think you are offensively? Like, what do you look back on and you think you grew the most on, and what do you think is the next step for you on that end?
I think offensively I'm still very raw. I mean, this past 2 years I had to play a different role and kind of like switch my game and trying to adapt to a lot of new things. So I think it's just a matter of time for me to get comfortable in the situation that I'm in today offensively, and I'm pretty comfortable in that. I mean, the position that coach and everybody put me in, and the respect that I get from my teammates and stuff like that helped me to be more confident in my offense every day.
What was your reaction to the news today about Chauncey getting a new deal?
I was very excited for him, man. He's very excited for us. It's been working for us. His attention to details and how much he helped us make mistakes and let us learn through that. And he has a lot of faith and respect for all of us for what we're doing, especially because he was a player and he's done it before. So he really understands what scenario we're in. And I'm very, very psyched about this.
Were you relieved at all?
Relieved.
I know you guys are professionals and things change. We all know that in sports. But you guys, like everyone's talked about how much you guys have grown this season under what he's teaching you. And if he were gone, you had to start over with another coach. That could be kind of burdensome.
For sure. I think it's not something that I was thinking about it a lot, just because I mean in the season you have so much things that you think about. But I'm just super excited for him and for us as a whole organization, what he's able to do with us and yeah, man, I'm just happy to have him back for sure.
Where do you think you've grown the most outside of the skill work, like the soft skills, whether it be leadership or film watching or any of those things?
You talk about within those things?
Well, anything that you think, like any of the soft skills stuff.
Yeah, I would say my leadership got way better, being able to feel comfortable talking to players, let them know my peace of mind, and if there's things that's going right or going wrong, being able to be vocal throughout any type of game. With them having a good game or a bad game, and just try to be consistent vocally, and then, yeah, keep on trying to lead the team.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
I know, but if they think it's cool, but it's like just a bunch of old guys on TV.
And we're back. We just heard Toumani Camara's exit interview after the 2024-2025 season. Camara obviously been a top dog for a long time. But before we get to him, we also got to talk about the people that helped get this show on for this entire 82-game season, the good people at Dick Hanna Subaru. Joe!
They've been with us from the start, Tyree.
And they're going to be with us.
We love our friends over at Dick Hanna Subaru. They've been a trusted family-owned dealership dedicated to serving their community with a lifetime powertrain warranty on every new Subaru and a focus on lasting relationships. They truly believe in nice. Visit Dick Hanna Subaru today and experience the difference for yourself. Toumani. Marang had the conversation with him on his podcast. He'll promote it later. I don't have to say the name. But he asked Toumani about Defensive Player of the Year. And I think it's a really interesting way to frame the question of whether or not he's going to be first team all NBA, which is kind of the benchmark. First, Defensive Player of the Year is probably not realistic, given that he plays in Portland. This is a 36-win team. A lot of people aren't staying up watching those games. But I do think there's an opportunity for him to hit that all-NBA first team, which would be an enormous accomplishment. A Blazer hasn't been first team all-defense since Buck Williams in the early 90s. It's been a long time, and it really speaks to the ethos of this basketball team.
The box. I mean, the box is the standard now. And, I mean, going in his second year, he's genuinely has established himself as a defensive household name. And people are talking about him, especially going into next season. Now, Toumani is going to be, I guess, in a way, a vet. I guess you're in your third year. You're kind of in that veteran range now. So he'll have those seasons under his belt. And that defensive prowess is only going to grow. And, I mean, to have him at this level, only at his second season, getting him in that trade, I mean, it just seems like a real steal now when you think about how it all happened.
Well, you know, part of the conversation of today is reflecting on where the organization is. And that happens at the end of every season. But especially this season when you make the move to extend your general manager and extend your coach. Like, to kind of finish the thought that we were going through at the beginning of the show, at first, I was stunned by the Chauncey news, just because the conversation and the narrative around him for a lot of his tenure here had been pretty negative because the team isn't winning. If you're not winning, the coach is going to be the one that gets a lot of the blame and the focus of the organization and the fans. But when you pull back a little bit, and I sat with it for a few hours, it makes sense. Yeah. The Blazers have an identity. That's something we were talking about for the first 2 months, which we didn't feel like they had. They have that now. They're Toumani Camara. They're Denny. They're all of these guys. And let's continue our thoughts on Chauncey. But Matisse, you said Matisse, Danny, in our ears up right now? Matisse Thybulle?
We have to talk
there
to
he
him.
is.
Your vantage point is someone with the team all the time, but not necessarily playing until recently. Like what happened between the start of the season and now that turned some of the more recent results around?
I think in any team you have you try to forge this identity of who you want to be, and for us for a long time it only existed conceptually. Like, this is who we want to be, this is who we claim we are. But over the course of the season we were able to do it and improve it to ourselves, and I felt that just compounded on itself, and like, it just built this momentum that became like this really beautiful thing. And then now it becomes clearer for guys like where they fit in, how they show up, and instead of having to get guys to play a certain way, it became, this is just how we play. And if you step on the court, this is how you're going to do it.
A bit more of defensive qualities and mindset in this team compared to other teams and rosters you play with?
Did you say that again?
You feel like there's more of a defensive mindset and qualities in this group compared to other teams and rosters that you play with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even feel like we got to really explore the extent of like our defensive lineups and what we could really do. Yeah, and defensive mindset, like it's a defensive identity, and it became like this very contagious thing. And honestly, I think Tumani had played a big role in that. Like when you can see someone have that much success and that much impact, it just becomes contagious, and everyone started to pick up on it, and it became, like I said, our identity.
Do you still have levels that you want to get to as a player and things you want to keep adding to your game?
Yeah, and I feel like over this year, I felt more connected to the path of getting there than I ever have. And honestly, that just says a lot to our coaching staff and the development staff of just making me feel like there's a way to get better. Obviously, like, we can all sit here and look at the numbers and be like, oh, you could be better at this, this, and that. But how do you get better? And, like, that's something that really sets coaches and development coaches apart, is how do you make a good player better? How do you introduce young players to the league and get them to fit into your offense? And, yeah, they've done an amazing job with me, the young guys. And, yeah, and you look at players like Denny. Like, I don't think I've seen a player get that much better over one season in my career. And just continuing to see like examples of that. Tumani last year to this year. Myself in 15 games. So just, yeah, I think we're all super confident. We trust the coaching staff, development staff, and just continuing to feel connected to the process and that it works.
Do you recognize Chauncey's growth as a coach? Have you seen sort of how he's evolved?
Absolutely. I think the coolest thing for me is seeing how much more hands-on he's become, because when you have, like, all these coaches are here for a reason. They're brilliant, and they've proved it over time. It's another thing to have a coach who is brilliant and has proved it, but also has done it as a player. So to have the coaches go over the play, but then have Chauncey grab the ball and then show you how it's supposed to be done, it just takes things to another level. And he does it on both ends, offensively and defensively. And his willingness to just continue to do that day in and day out, and just grab an individual, like a specific moment, and make sure that it's what he wants it to be. And that creates this like level of accountability where it's like, okay, well, this, I don't know how old Chauncey is at this point. This guy can come in here and do it. Like, we have no excuse. So, yeah.
It's all fun and games until he pops something, right?
Right.
A couple of times, just here, you've said the young guys, the young guys. You're not that old yourself, but do you find yourself kind of sliding into a leadership role? Because I've talked to these guys throughout the season. A lot of the young guys have mentioned coming to you, and despite you not being older, you're willing to impart on them, where some guys around the league see that as a threat. Is that a space that you think you've grown in?
For sure. It was uncomfortable, but, I mean, I couldn't play. So at some point I had to figure out how am I going to stay engaged, and then how am I going to create an impact, and also learning just like for myself, like what are the things that I value being a part of this game. And a huge part of it is like community and feeling like you're a part of something important. And my way of creating that for myself was to pour into some of the younger players, and just seeing so many of them have similar struggles as me, and honestly a lot of them just fitting a similar archetype of just being like a next action defensive type of player, and trusting that I've seen enough of this to be able to impart something of value for them. And yeah, just trying to take advantage of those opportunities. And I mean, also to speak to like these guys, like we have a group where there's just no ego, and it's like the willingness to receive feedback is honestly a huge thing, because you got players who've seen a lot, they know a lot, but if the person you're talking to doesn't want to hear it, like there's no value to be exchanged. So these guys are extremely receptive, and they all want to get better, and they're all willing to learn and listen. So, yeah. Cool. Yep. Thank you, guys.
That was Matisse Thybulle we just heard from. Matisse is always a fun character.
Fun hang.
I mean, he's always, but I mean, you can just feel his sense of determination and kind of understanding of this team moving forward. It just feels different coming from Matisse.
It does, because he's a vet.
Yeah.
In a team full of young guys, he is a veteran. Like, he's not someone who's coming in ceremonially at the end of his career. This is someone who can make an impact on this team, and we have seen that time and time again in such a short period of time. I think we talked about this last show, Tyree, but one of the narratives around this team was, where's Matisse?
Yeah.
Because the injury was supposed to be one, okay, maybe it keeps you out quarter of the season. But then he re-aggravated it, and then it was half the season, and then 3/4 of the season. It's like, this guy even going to play? And then he does. He plays 15 games, and Calabro, give him credit, he always says in the broadcast he's got new batteries because, you get worn down over 82 games. But Tease didn't, and he really showed that. And he reminded everybody that if he was playing a lot of this season, if Rob played a lot of this season, you literally have 3 guys that could be considered 3 of the top 10 defenders in the league, which would put you in that all-defense conversation. So the value that he brings is extreme, and I hope that he is on this roster next season because if he can stay healthy, he is incredibly valuable for any franchise.
Dude is a stealing merchant. Yeah. And I mean, like, when you're talking about a team that has been struggling on defensive recent years and now, coming to this second half of the season, top 6, top 7 in defensive rating, I mean, Matisse has been a big part of that. And I mean, Tamana Kamara has been a big part of that as well. And obviously, the defensive improvement helped with getting Chauncey Billups that extension.
That was something that they talked to in that sound that I'm sure we'll get to very soon. That, again, it's that identity, the defense. Do we want to get to D.C.?
Oh, we got to hear from our rookie, don't we?
Let's go to D.C.
Your first season, and how do you think you
I feel like, in the middle of the season, I let, trying to think of the best way to say it. I mean, I had a great start. I feel like, I was late, and, I put it on myself that, I wasn't in shape in the middle of the season after I got hurt. And, I feel like that's when, things were going downhill and, I was out of shape. And after that, really locked in. And second half of the season was, all uphill and, really just took time and focused on my body and everything I needed to do to, make sure I was getting, being able to play 30 minutes a night. And, I was able to do that.
Now that you've gone through it for a whole year, would you say the jump from college to the NBA is harder than you thought it was going to be or about what you expected?
I feel like harder. I mean, you definitely don't practice as much as you do in college, but, you're playing games every single night. And, it's a lot up and down. And, that jump, mentally is, I feel like, the biggest thing.
Big DC. You want to know something about DC? That swag has transformed since he's been here at Portland. That gold chain.
You've seen it grow over the 82 games?
Look at him. He's chilling, loosed out, arm like this, like he's the big man. A nice little chain. That NBA check probably helped. I mean,
he's starting, man. He's feeling himself, as he should.
Dude has improved significantly since the start of the season, Joe.
Yeah, DC has been one where out of the gate, it looked pretty exciting because he put up some splashy games. Like, he got a lot of rebounds. He got a lot of blocks in a game. He got a lot of points in a game. Started knocking down threes at the end of the year, which is a fun little wrinkle. But Donovan is a guy who has continued to show growth, and it's clear that they got someone who he's tall, and he takes up a lot of space. Like, he's good at taking up space. There are big men, like Kristaps Porzingis is a perfect example. Kristaps is tall. He's like 7'2", but he doesn't play like DC. He plays from the outside, and he's kind of sinewy and doesn't take up space.
A little smaller than his size.
Precisely. DC plays bigger than his size, which is frightening because he's a big dude. But when you see someone like Donovan Clingan and you hear about him and you talk about him, he is a guy who maybe needs to develop offensively. Like, I'm not splitting the atom saying that, but he is someone that you can count on in your lineup to take important minutes, to be a stopper inside. And we've seen that there are certain matchups that maybe can exploit some of his limitations, but when he has a good matchup, he's deadly.
And, I mean, if you want to talk about his improvement, he's got to be one of the most coachable rookies, especially we've seen this season, because you compare it from the game one against that Golden State Warriors to the end against the L.A. Lakers, there were some games that we wouldn't have won if D.C. didn't have his double-double. And, I mean, improving to that defensive effort, that's one of the reasons that Chauncey got his extension. And we got that sound from this morning from Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups in the conference when they were talking about both of them getting an extension. Let's go ahead and hear from them guys.
I think you all, along with our fans, can kind of see what we've been building, what we've been working on. And anytime you're building something, you want to see some semblance of where it's at or where it's going to go. I think we can all see that. You look at all of our young players and how they're developing. You look at the young coach, how I'm developing. You look at the young GM, how he's developing. It's just amazing. So I'm just so happy with what what we've done and where I think we can go. There's so much promise here, you know. So I'm pumped about it. I want to thank Jody. I want to thank Bert for believing in me, believing in Joe, believing in our union. So I'm just really excited today. It's an amazing day.
Rebuilds are tough. You know, we went from, you know, a team that we hoped could be competitive a few years ago to a team that had a really rough season the year prior to, you know, very subpar start to this season. So those are tough, you know, navigating that as a group, and that's something I'm really proud of is how we stayed together. Nobody panicked. We believed in what we were building. We believed in, you know, the group of people we have, including, of course, you know, the players that we have. And when we started taking those steps, it was, you know, I don't think it was anything that surprised us. We just didn't know exactly when that was going to happen. When those guys, you know, started playing the level of defense that we expected, when they, you know, started to be more and more connected, when, you know, we started winning ball games and being really competitive on a nightly basis, that changed everything for us. And we're really proud of, you know, what's happened this second half of the season. You know, something for us, you know, it's the defensive improvement that we've seen. For us to be the third best defense in the league this second half of the season, that's meaningful and substantive. And that's what we've been trying to build, and that's what we're going to point to moving forward. Like, this is who we are. You know, obviously we have a young group that they're going to get better over time, so we're seeing that growth, of course. But I think our mentality shifted. We learned that this is how we have to play night in and night out to be competitive. And, you know, it starts getting contagious, and, you know, winning starts really fueling you. And I think over the course of time, and we really haven't seen that defense deviate even, you know, down this last couple weeks when we've been more shorthanded than previously. It's a mentality. Like, these guys are tough. They're about the right things. They know we need to get stops in order to perform. They're getting more and more connected as we go.
There were several things that I could point to, the shift and the change, because like you said, I mean, December we were the worst defense in basketball, and there were a lot of things that pointed to that. But I think when it really changed is I kind of got to a point with our squad where I just told them all I didn't really care who it was, the name on the back of the jersey, the salary, the whatever. I didn't care. We were sinking, and we were sinking pretty bad. I said, I'm going to play the guys. They're going to compete and play defense. And if you don't do that, I don't care. You're just not going to play. And I meant that. And they felt that. And it really brought us together, to be honest with you. And, you know, the guys started seeing the beauty in being competitive and the beauty in playing defense. And it's what I've always said, like, when you have a connected group, they're just very difficult to play against. And so they kind of got lost in that, you know. So that was just one thing. But it was several things because we were kind of all over the map. But it's in terms of just mentality, it's just kind of who we are. You know, the teams that come in here and play against us, they know they gotta bring their lunch pail. You know, it's gonna be a tough game. Whether you win or lose, it's gonna be tough. That's just kind of who we are. I just felt very good about where we're at, you know, and I now understand how long it takes to build a culture. And I feel like we've done that, you know. I think the telltale of that, and for any coach, is if you're at some point when your team kind of takes on your personality and how you believe the game should be played, I think that you've gotten there, you know. And I believe that our team has done that with me. And the entire time, you know, I've been just saying, you never know when that's going to happen. You know, you never know when your team is going to take the leap. You never know if the team will take the leap. And I just felt like we took some big strides this year, you know, and had a lot to do with, you know, the staff, you know, and what we've done. But obviously, you know, there's so much speculation, you know, and this game, again, you know, it's very fragile, you know. So my people, and you hear everything, you know, that I wasn't supposed to last through half of the season this year, and maybe Aaron just asked that question earlier. Maybe we don't go on that run. Who knows? You just never know, you know. But I just had so much growing to do last year when they could have picked up that extension, and there was still things they needed to learn about me. that they ended up learning, and it just all worked out. I just always believe you can't control fate, and what's going to happen is what's supposed to happen is going to, and this is what was supposed to happen, and I'm very, very happy about it.
The Blazers haven't won a lot of games with Chauncey as coach. That's just the reality of the situation. But clearly they had something come together this calendar year. But for fans that are upset about this, like, there is a legitimate argument that you should be upset in some ways. Chauncey has a 117 and 211 record. Like, that is the reality of the situation. So clearly not all of that is his fault. I have to say that. Like, he was handed a total rebuild and a teardown. So that record, I don't think, is representative of how Chauncey is as a coach, how he's grown as a coach, like he said. But that is kind of the cold reality of the situation of Chauncey Billups. Now, that story is not over because he got an extension. So he's going to be here. And because the Blazers had a good finish to the year, finished with 36 wins, the expectations will be there next year. A big part of that is going to be Scoot Henderson, who is now speaking to the media.
Coaching changes all the time, but how important is it to your development to maintain that relationship with the head coach and not have to have a change there?
I thought about that, and I was like, dang, that's probably like 1 in a million. It probably doesn't happen too often to where a player like me happens to run into a player like Chauncey was, and the person that he is, and the coach that he is. Just being able to kind of like pick his brain sometimes and things like that, but to also not have to like adjust to somebody different, a whole new personality, a whole new type of realm, kind of thing they're on. But I think just continuing to have Chauncey around is going to be, huge for our relationship, person to person.
Yeah, you started out a little slowly, then you had that crazy hot stretch where you were killing it. A little dip there at the end. Was there a reason for that in your estimation? Were it just off stretch or?
Probably just an off stretch. I think I wasn't being as aggressive as I was. Kind of went to more like I said, less aggressive. I think that's my whole thing. The more aggressive I am, the better I play on both sides of the ball. The more aggressive I am on defense. The basketball gods always kind of help you out there as long as you're playing the game right.
How hungry are you, and how hungry do you think the team is to try and close this thing next year in the postseason?
I think we're really hungry. Dogs got to eat, so I think coming to next year, I think everybody's just going to focus and lock in. And, I think that's all we really needed to see the team that we could be, with this group specifically, to see the team that we could be, and we're seeing that. And like I said, harp on our defense, things like that, but just get that swag back.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
I was hoping for 4:30.
All right. Scoot Henderson, baby. Sucks we didn't get to see him in the tail end of the season.
It really does, and that's like been a prevailing narrative around these last 20 games is a game like tonight when – what was the score? Have we even said the score of the game? It was 109-81.
Said it once.
Good job, everybody. But this is the kind of game where Scoot should be playing, 32 minutes, entertaining the crowd who come here on a Sunday against the Lakers. A lot of Lakers fans. That always bums me out.
It's kind of nasty.
But Scoot is someone who figured something out over the course of the season. Yeah. The game against the Knicks, that was a moment because we've been asking for it for a long time. A long time. It's the second season. Relative to Scoot's career, a long time. Where we see it maybe for a half, maybe 3/4, maybe even a game. Yeah. But to have a sustained stretch of basketball where it's like, that guy is going to be an impactful player for the Blazers for a long time. And to kind of cap it off with that Knicks game where he had 30 points, where a lot of people were watching, a lot of national attention on Scoot for that game. And it's important for him to feel himself in those moments and play like the thing Lamar says about Shaden a lot, when Shai's got it going. Shai's playing like the best player in the building because he thinks he's the best player in the building. And I think Scoot doesn't have a lack of confidence when it comes to his abilities, and I mean that in the most complimentary way. Like, that is part of his game.
You want to know, if you would have told me that Scoot Henderson would have this amount of a jump at the beginning of this season, the only reason I would say that you're crazy is because of what we saw in year one. I can only go off of what we've seen. And this year one was really Scoot's real time to get some real NBA reps. He was genuinely so young when he came into this league. no real experience. And so you take last season for what it was, and then you come into this season, he just kind of turns it around. That gives you some type of real idea what kind of player he is. One, he never had the experience. That is one fault that is going to have, I mean, it's still stuck to him. He still needs to get that type of experience.
Yeah.
But then, two, how coachable he is and how he's been able to be in this Chauncey Billups system for now 2 seasons. And he's been able to find himself a little starter home, a little home in that system where he knows he can have his impact in the game each and every single night. And to your credit, talk about the injury, he would have probably had 40 tonight. He probably would have had 40 the other night that they were playing when nobody was on these rosters. So, Scoot, I mean, at the end of the season, I'm genuinely excited to see Scoot Henderson next season. Not because I don't think that he is going to be killing it, but because I know the strides that he's going to take. It's going to be far and few between, just like it was this year.
Yeah, Scoot is a part of the grand plan going forward.
Yeah.
And it's clear that, like, kind of looking back now as we start our post-mortem of this season, it's begun. The offseason is here, folks. That 9-game winning streak, that stretch where Portland played, you know, they were very good for a long stretch, but that stretch where they were great, that was important for more reasons than potential play-in. Are they going to sneak in? What are they doing here? That gave the decision makers of the Portland Trailblazers the confidence to say we're extending Joe Cronin, the confidence to saying that we are extending Chauncey Billups. These are our players. And I do think the notion that you're going to fall back in the draft order probably, and we'll talk about what impact this had on where the Blazers finished in terms of likelihood of getting a top 4 pick, top 1 pick, all that kind of stuff. But they have guys. Like, that was part of what Chauncey said was there was a question asked, like, do you need a star? Like, where's the star in this team? And Chauncey, I thought, gave a really interesting answer of, we're trying to home grow these guys. Like, when Joker was drafted, he wasn't a 3-time MVP. Giannis was drafted in the middle of the first round. You don't need to necessarily have a 1-2 pick. Now, it helps.
Yeah.
The odds are in your favor. But that doesn't mean that you can't find someone farther down the board or that a guy in your roster is not potentially that guy. And to me, he's alluding to Denny Avdia when he says that. When he was saying that, wasn't that the direction you thought he was going? Like, this guy's talking about Denny right now.
He's got to be talking about Denny. And I mean, you talk about a player that has taken over. Danny Marang.
Speaking of stars.
Yay. There
Speaking of
is.
superstars.
Little Danny Marang action. Joining us after the exit interviews.
I'll stop moving so they can
frame it up.
Frame it up nice.
There you go.
Well, Danny.
Hey, bud.
Hey, bud.
Since we got you here, brother, we haven't heard from you yet, man.
You're right.
You
It's
know?
we literally just wrapped up downstairs. So
Can you break down this basketball game we saw tonight, please?
I didn't watch a lot of it.
Yeah, same. Congrats to Rory McIlroy completing the career Grand Slam. Well done, young fella.
Live from the Motor Center, that's what we're talking about. Good people, Chauncey Billups, Joe Cronin got the extension. We're finishing his exit interviews. Danny, I'm curious on your thoughts. When you saw the news this morning about Chauncey Billups, what was going through your mind?
Wasn't totally surprised. You know, the word sort of circulated a couple days ago, but it's rumor mill stuff, so you don't really know which way it's actually going to go
Sports
until.
media is so gossipy too.
Oh
It's
God,
like, is this real?
We're worse than high school.
Gossip Girl for men.
Oh
Love
yeah,
it.
no, we are. That's just the nature.
Gossip
of that
Girls
beast.
for everybody. Tyree.
Look,
Okay, you know what? I watch Gossip Girls too. Relax.
I've probably been the most pro Chauncey guy in the media over the last couple of years in the sense of the soft skill stuff and everything that kind of comes with that. And that's ultimately where I fell on this, and you can hear it in the exit interviews from the players. You know, what they think of him and how he's empowered guys, whether it's Denny, whether it's Tumani. You know, Ant's a guy that gets beat up for his defense or lack thereof, and Chauncey makes a concerted effort to be like, no. Look, he may get hunted, but it's not for lack of effort. It's not for lack of, you know, giving the intensity on that end or anything along those lines. It's more of, you know, I want somebody who's going to lay what they have on the line for those opportunities. And when you hear the players talk about Chauncey in that way, and Chauncey call out specific things, you know, obviously in his exit interview today, he talked about Jeremy Grant. And, yeah, he struggled offensively. And instead of saying it was a down year for Jeremy, he talked about, hey, it was, look, the offense was X, we're doing Y now, and how difficult that of a transition that was for Jeremy because it took him out of his comfort spots. And instead of blaming the player, he took that blame. And that's something that, if you look around the league, then not a lot of coaches are going to do. That's just
Michael Malone.
Well, and to be fair, in a lot of cases, it does fall on the players and whether their ability or inability to execute. But there's also context of which a lot of times fans just aren't privy to. And it's, as media, we try to contextualize those things without getting in some sort of trouble, talking about things that, that it's not
alluding to,
it's
innuendo.
Yes, it's not state secrets, but you try to offer that context, and the things that come along with that. And look, I think Chauncey's done a great job in establishing that rapport. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's a guy that he mentions it quite often, and I don't think people truly understand it. He's run the gamut from a guy that was disappointing in his rookie season, got traded quickly. He was a number 3 overall pick, much like Scoot Henderson. And I think in those things, he's been a champion. He's been a NBA Finals MVP. Like, the only thing he doesn't really have on his docket is an MVP. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, every other accolade he's had.
Well, he's literally a Hall of Famer.
Yes. Yeah. And in the players, they understand that. Matisse Thybulle was just talking about, like, hey, how can we get mad about, or how can we get frustrated about X, Y, or Z when Chauncey stops practice and does the thing that he's asking us to do, and not as theory, it's as a guy who did it.
Did Chauncey say anything demonstrably different in his exit interview than he did earlier this morning?
Not really. I think he just kind of dove a little bit further into context and particularly individual players, their growths. At this point in time, and this isn't like state media stuff. This is just, if you're looking at things and you're not saying that literally every single player, sans maybe Jeremy or DA, like 2 of the older guys on the roster, or Rob because of injury, didn't grow. You're crazy.
But, Danny, and we talked about it before you got here, like, with all the caveats and asterisks next to it, because a lot of it is not his fault. He was handed a rebuild. Like, if you look at Chauncey's record as a coach, fans can sit there and say, I'm disappointed that he's coming back after 4 years of this. Mm-hmm. And again, I would caution that this is just the continuing thread that the Blazers are going through of continuity and keeping things the same and consistency. And you're going to have probably your core of your roster the same next year as you had this year, and it's keeping things together. But for a fan who doesn't follow or does follow the team and is disappointed with the decisions that the front office has made, I would just caution that. Kind of look at the big picture, look at the micro along with the macro, like what the situation was that Chauncey and Joe Corona were handed, and the success that they've had recently, and you package all of that together. You talk about putting things in context. I think this decision is one that in context makes sense, out of context probably doesn't.
Yeah, no, I think 100% it does, and it gives them the ability to know kind of what they are and what they're doing. The question that I asked Chauncey, I think, was different from the morning press conference, and this one was more about the culture. And I asked him, now that you've established this, are you worried that you have to reestablish that culture? Like, when you start things back up in late August with workouts or voluntary workouts and into camp in September and in the preseason, how much more do you have to reestablish it?
Yeah.
And he basically said, the short version is, no. I might have to stand on it and let them know, like, hey, if you're not playing defense, you're not going to play. Like, I think it's pretty well communicated to these guys now, and they understand that. Well, I might have to.
I chuckled in the pregame because you gave Cronin the Marangism, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Pardon the term, but getting high in your own supply is what you said. You gave it that caveat. And I was kind of chuckling a few rows back.
I did work that into a question.
But it is an interesting point, and it is an interesting point of, like, because there's this thought, Tyree, if you're sort of, and they do this in the NFL too, right? Mm-hmm. A team that starts 1-9 and then doesn't make the playoffs, but say they win like 8 of their last 9. It's like, all right, how do we carry that momentum into the next season? And to me, it's kind of a coin flip. Like, if you did that because the players are buying into a system, I think it's easier to maintain. If you did it because you got a quarterback who got hot and is dropping dimes and the guys don't like each other, like, then it's probably less likely. But this does feel more like of a cohesive unit and team, and vibes is really overused, but the vibes are good with this team right now.
No,
and we didn't think that would be the case 4 months ago. I mean, Chauncey talked about it. He's like, everyone was calling for my job earlier in the year, and we did a show where it's like, guys, if they don't play well against Minnesota these next 2 games, I don't know about Billups' future, and here he is getting a contract extension, and it's justified. Like, we have come so far in just 4 months, and that's why I'm really excited about next season, because something is happening here.
Yeah, and I mean, he talked about it as well in that morning interview that maybe if they didn't go on that run that happened during the season, maybe things are changing. Maybe that contract extension doesn't happen. But to your points and to your credit, when you look at it overall in the 2025 franchise and things of that sort, you look for stability, longevity, and veterans, right? I'm going to take this to the NFL route. The Detroit Lions. They kept with Dan Campbell. They stuck with him. Even when that first season was extremely rough. I can't remember how many games they won. I don't even think it was more than 2. And they kept him. They kept him. The next season, they improved just a little bit slightly. So if you want to translate that to the NBA, improve just a little bit slightly. You go on to run to the playoffs the following year. And the same thing can be said for this Portland team. They were in the playoff talk. Play in, playoff, whatever, it's postseason, it's extra basketball. They were in that conversation. So when you talk about a rebuild and you talk about structure and you talk about a new GM or a new head coach, why do that? And I actually got a chance to talk to Cronin just on the side for a little bit after it, and he said, it's a relief that we got this done.
Yeah,
it's a relief in today's NBA where a lot of uncertainty and a lot of teams are still figuring out their longevity pieces. They have theirs, and it just feels like a weight's been lifted off their soldier, and I kind of understand it. I see what's going on.
Black Monday's coming. I mean, that's the reality. There's going to be some coaches and some GMs dismissed tomorrow. Like that's.
Are there any left? It felt like all the teams that wanted to fire their coaches.
Oh, there's probably still a couple more to go. 4 or 5.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like. I feel like that's if you're setting the over under, it's either 3.5 or 4.5. I'm just not sure exactly which way some teams are going to go.
Blazer fans, that's not shoe. Good stuff.
And that's the thing is like I know we talked about the Blazers winning 10 out of 11, that streak, and that may be the thing that kind of saves everything. But I don't think it's necessarily this straight line. It's not necessarily causation, correlation. And I think a lot of people are saying that in that regards to when they look at that, they go, well, I mean, it's just those games. It's just this. And it's like, no, it's the holistic identity. It's the what they are and the stamp that they put on it as far as the defensive mindset, the opportunity, those things that exist out there. And I think that was more, and don't get me wrong, winning a handful of games, it makes things look better. It shines things up. It makes things look a little clearer. But let's just say they win 6 out of 10 in that, or 7 out of 10. Let's just say they're 500 or better in that stretch. Just enough to show there is something here. That is more important than just the win-loss total. And I think a lot of people are like, well, if they hadn't done this, then they would have fired him. It's like, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because I think it's more about the identity taking root than anything else.
I completely agree. It is about the identity, but the Blazers finished this season 36-46. 15-win improvement.
5 games under 500.
5 games under 500. If the Blazers finish this season 26-56, we're having a different conversation.
Probably.
The wins do matter. Like, even if those 10 games were lost for reasons arbitrary to the fact if Portland's good or not, like, let's say some players don't sit. Let's say a shot goes down or a shot doesn't go down, depending on who it is. The Blazers lose 8 to 10 more games. You're having a fresh start, I think. Yeah. I think it's part of it. And that's not indicative of the process working, the process not working, but you can sell this to the fans. You cannot sell a 26-win team continuing on the exact same path. I think that'd be a really tough sell.
No, I agree. And before we get to our Dick Hanna Subaru, I have to ask you guys a question. What are the fans missing? What are they missing that they aren't seeing right now? Because you said it in the social media. It's been kind of halfway. It's been like, okay, yeah, Chauncey's back. It's like, oh, Chauncey's back. It's honestly genuinely a question that I'm curious to ask. Like, fans seem like halfway split. So what are they missing? I'm going to
take a hornet's nest. You've been through this with me before, Terry, with Stotts. And in general, fans don't know. That's the real issue. They think coaching is this end-all, be-all. It's this big deciding factor. The coach is what makes a team actually good. It's Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's. Can they get better there? Yeah, and Chauncey admitted they can get better there, particularly on the offensive end, and I think that is something they need to focus on. But you either got it or you don't. No great coach has ever taken a bad team to the playoffs. It doesn't happen. If you're a bad team, you're a bad team. I don't care if it's Red Auerbach. I don't care if it's Phil Jackson. I don't care if it's Eric Spoelstra. I don't care. Insert great coach here. If you don't have it, it doesn't matter.
The coach gets too much credit. The coach gets too much blame.
Yes.
Like, Terry Stotts, I think, was a good coach, but Terry Stotts had Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to help you look like a better coach. Chauncey doesn't have Damian Lillard now. It's going to be harder to win basketball games. I do think that the continuity matters, Tyree, and fans want somebody to blame. And no matter the situation, it's usually the coach, especially when the coach represents the transition from a very popular era to where we are today, which is trying to push the boulder back up the hill. Because it was at the bottom with Chauncey for a while, and now we're finally starting to crawl out of it. And for fans, they want a fresh start. But I would advocate that this is a better direction for the franchise to go. After sitting with it for a while, just, have a glass of wine, enjoy yourself. Have some noodles. It's almost supper time, right? Think about this. Don't react. Don't fight with your family over this. It's just basketball. It's going to be fine.
You're right. Exactly. If you're looking for a new car, you're looking to upgrade, well, I got something for you. Dick Hanna Subaru, Joe!
For over 70 years. It's a long time. For over 70 years. Dick Hanna Subaru has been a trusted, family-owned dealership dedicated to serving their community, much like Danny Marang does.
True.
With a lifetime powertrain warranty on every new Subaru and a focus on lasting relationships, they truly believe in nice, like Tyree Smith. Visit Dick Hanna Subaru today and experience the difference for yourself. Well, the Blazers did win the basketball game.
They did.
Phoenix lost a basketball game.
They did. So
that
now we have
means,
to do math.
So what is it? Okay, what
So
does
you're-
Tankathon say?
So you're going to be tied for ninth, and here's how this process is going to go.
Let's go.
You're going
Dr.
to
Danny.
You're going to split the odds down the middle, and there will be one spare set of lottery odds. So
I'm literally already lost.
Yeah, so let's say there's 1,000 combinations, and 999 of them are decided which teams they go to. There will be a coin toss to decide who gets that last set of odds before they run the lottery. So they're going to take the total percentages and split it down the middle on the top 4 potential and the number 1 pick potential, and then the spare set of odds will go to a team that wins the coin toss.
I have a good and important question. Why don't they televise this whole thing? Why don't they televise all of it? Because that way there's no question about conspiracy, and
they do
some people, I think, would really like that.
Well, I don't do math, so I'm
Yeah.
leaving it to D-Man. Come on.
No, they do, but they do it afterwards because they do it.
They do it like a recap?
Yes, because so what ends up happening, it's like a Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Your phone is taken away from you. You are sequestered away for the lottery, and
PricewaterhouseCoopers comes in and
so
the whole thing.
You have representative from every team. Then you have selected media that go in. Usually it's a local beat reporter for each team, then a couple national media members, and I can't remember the clearinghouse that does it, but it's a whole
it's a whole thing.
Oh yeah, that makes sure that there's no frozen envelopes.
Billions of dollars are on the line based on where these are. They actually ping pong balls?
Yeah.
See, this is insane. There should be like a big Willy Wonka type situation.
They show it afterwards, but they what they do is in the presentation
They show a taped version of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but that's because they have to show the lottery winners as you progress down from 14 to 1. That's the whole game show of it all. Then they give you the behind the scenes of how that goes down.
Best surprise will be Danny Marang will be the one there. Are you going?
I'm not going to go. Had they had better odds, I was going to go to Chicago and do that. But
wait a minute. You have not been asked to represent the Portland Trail Blazers?
Oh, no. I'm talking about being in the back room. So
I want you front and center, baby.
No, I
want you next to the owners of the NBA.
Look,
fresh cut.
If I go, if I were to go, it would be in a year where the odds were relatively high, and I would ask to be in the back room.
Can't waste your time on 3.7%. This man's got things to do.
It's a busy summer, man.
I understand.
It's a very busy summer.
So, but they are going to be just at about 17% for a top 4 pick, as I understand it.
I think it's like 17.2 or something like that.
So again, are we in this having cake and eating it too situation? Like, it feels like it's possible where you're having the cake of your team actually being pretty good, and then you're eating it because you're getting the top 4 picks.
Well,
and you're getting someone who makes an impact.
Yes.
Saying we can.
Yeah.
It's possible.
It's the opportunity exists, as it were.
How not harp on that? That's something to go in. I mean, let me take a step analysis back real quick. If I'm judging everything from a fan, I'm coming in today, I woke up, I got my coffee, and I'm judging right now based on today. I'm feeling extremely good as a Blazers fan. I got my coach, I got my GM, the potential lottery odds. We didn't go to the postseason. That's all y'all wanted. Let me tell you something. You asked for losses, you got more losses than you got wins. You wanted not to go to the postseason, you're not in the postseason for your draft lottery odds. Boom. What else do you want? I don't know what else. It feels like this is the perfect situation right now for the Blazers to be in, especially as a fan. You got things locked in. The players all improved. You can't tell me not one. Watt, Justin Minaya, Bryce McGowan's. Every single one of these Portland Trail Blazers improved this season, whether it was a little or whether it was a lot. And now you're going into the offseason with the lottery. You're going into the offseason with all of your stable boundaries, with your front office in place. Everybody was leaving the Motor Center today smiling, happy. What else? Feeling good as a Blazers fan, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, now you were a month away from the lottery. Like that, it happens quick. Like
May 12th.
You get down that path, and it's just like one of those situations where it's like, it's unfortunate. I was just talking to people around the team today. Like, how much is it kind of a bummer that not just for you guys, but for so many teams in the NBA, not just Cooper Flagg, but like how much one day can decide what your offseason can or can't be. Now, you still need to push beyond that, but that is why so many teams are so hesitant to tank. Because if you are the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the New Orleans Pelicans, if you don't get number one,
that's the thing. Most of these
what
teams,
is your season worth?
More teams than not who decided not to win basketball games are not going to get the number one pick. In fact, none of those teams could get the
math is
the number
most
one pick.
likely if you were the number one. If you were the Utah Jazz, they have the 1-1 odds, so they will start 1, which means as far back as they can go is 5. We saw the Detroit Pistons do that 3 times. The math says as the number 1 overall potential pick, you're most likely positioned to end up as number 5. So, like, keep that in the back of your head when you're like, oh my God, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do this? Because it's like, well, they couldn't have been bad enough to be there and get this development.
And you also aren't relying the entire fortune of your franchise on a couple of balls bouncing around. If Cooper Flagg comes to the Portland Trail Blazers, we're all going to dance naked down NATO. It's going to be fantastic. However, that doesn't mean the Blazers are going to win a championship next season if they get Cooper Flagg. Like, there are other factors at play besides the draft pick that you have. So while it would help tremendously, it feel real good, it doesn't mean the Blazers will win a title next season.
Stay tuned for Naked on NATO. Oh, coming up after us.
Possibly, but it does put you.
It's not bad.
I'm not talking about the possibly for the naked NATO. I don't know.
It's a certainty.
Somebody be down there.
What certainty? I'm certain 36 and 46. That's what you end the record with, right?
Yeah.
What was it? Projected to win 21?
21 and a half.
Exactly.
If you had the under, you lost.
And you mentioned a lot today. That progression now, it's what's next. So you talk about 36 wins. You get maybe 41 wins. You're feeling good, right? But if you don't.
Just swing it 5 the other way, Tyree.
Exactly.
If you're down to 31, then it's like we extended everybody. We kept the same court. Like there is. And pressure's good because it means you're building towards something. There's no pressure on a team if you're like if the Blazers had 21 wins and they had the best odds for Cooper Flagg. There's no pressure on that. It's like
now
down
there's
to the
pressure,
bottom.
and that was kind of the whole "don't get high on your own supply" question that I asked this morning was, how do you avoid being the 2014 Phoenix Suns? How do you avoid being the 2016-17 Portland Trail Blazers? Which, if you remember, that's the season that. Coming into, they spent all that money on Maurice Harkless, Evan Turner, Myers Leonard, and
Allen
Crabbe.
Oh,
God.
What a deal that was.
Alan Crabbe
Cool
still only 31 years old somehow.
That's not still.
Yeah. Go ahead and pull that
I
one up.
believe you, but I'm still going to Google it on my machine right here.
It's absolutely insane. $75 million, and still a young man. What age does it have him at?
He is 33.
33. My bad.
I would have guessed about 57. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
I said 31. I was meant to say 32. But he is now 33. And
there it is. His overview includes $18.5 million in 2016.
Ooh. Yeah, and he got that for 4 years. But no, the idea of where they are, just talking with those in the front office, I have a pretty strong belief that they know where they are, and they know what needs to happen and the path to get there. No one will ever admit it on camera or on radio or whatever medium that you prefer. Luck. Not just in the lottery, but luck in the right player shaking free. Luck in you having the right. Everybody talks about, making trades, and it's like, well, the Thunder got SGA. It's like, yeah, they had Paul George, the one player that was going to swing Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers. Mm-hmm. If they don't have Paul George, they don't get SGA.
Yeah.
But you have to do as much as possible to make your own luck, and that's now the clock starts on that.
The city of Portland, lucky in love, unlucky in basketball. There's only a couple of minutes left. I just want to take a second and say thank you to everyone for watching this darn television show. I know we give the audience a hard time sometimes about the way you are as fans, the way you aren't as fans. It's Danny. He does it all. We're the nice ones. But we sincerely appreciate you tuning into the show, tuning in on YouTube, replying to tweets, posts, everything. You make this possible. If you didn't watch, there wouldn't be cameras here. We wouldn't be at the Moda Center. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
It's going to be a fun season next year. I'm going to give a shout-out to the entire crew for K2 for helping putting this on. 82 shows this year, and it's been so fun. Shout-out to the Portland Trail Blazers for this season, the partnership that we've been able to make. Shout-out to Metropolitan Tavern. They were the first place we had our live show. Now we're back at here for the Moda Center. And also to Dick Hanna Subaru and Best Day Brewing, man. It was awesome just to have them on board. Gentlemen, what a season it's been. And we're going to be
82
back.
in the book.
82, we did it. The Blazers are, coming into the season, we didn't know what it'd be. Leaving it, we have a hope.
Yep. I'm
going to walk outside. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to go to a watering hole, drink a beverage, and toast this Blazer season. It's a gorgeous day. I'm excited for the future. They're in a good spot.
Let's check back in May 13th.
So what do they have to get to for you to feel okay?
Moving up is great, but if you don't move up, you don't move up, and then it's a different kind of work. That's the reality. You can talk about all the different paths, and I've said it a million times, but check back in May 13th, and we'll see which way they're going.
And that's a wrap on the Rip City Wrap-Up, Season 1, Episode 82. We appreciate you guys for joining us all along this season. Blazers, they finished with a record of 36-46, 22-19 at home. Listen, this season brought twists, turns, extensions, money lost, whatever, but I hope you guys enjoyed it all. Love you guys. This has been great, and folks, we'll see you guys back here for Season 2.
Love you all so much.
Bye.